All right, so every table has a jar of underglaze, okay? So you might have a jar that looks like this. It might be a baby food jar, but it's all the same. When you first start, you wanna make sure that the lid is on tight, and then you wanna give it a nice little shake, okay? As this sits, the colorant, the chemicals inside the underglaze starts to float to the bottom or sink to the bottom, and then water floats to the top. So by giving it a nice little shake, okay, it's just an easy way to mix it. Please make sure the lid is on, okay? There have been times where students will start to shake, the lid will pop off, then there's underglaze all over them, their neighbors, the table, the floor. My curtains in the back have black underglaze from pre-COVID times, okay? So just make sure the lid is on, okay? From there, you'll be able to open it up, okay? And as a table, you'll be sharing the one jar. Up front, I have these large brushes that you will be using to paint with, okay? So you don't need a lot, and the underglaze is a little bit watery, and it's supposed to be like that. It's not paint, okay? So it's not gonna be thick like tempera or acrylic or oil paint, okay? It's gonna be watery, okay? So I'm gonna dip my paintbrush in, okay? Then I'm going to paint a layer, okay? And I like to paint going in one direction the first time around. Okay, so up and down. Okay. Like that. Okay. Because it is thin, okay, you will see a little bit of that clay, the brown, peeking through. That is okay, because you are doing 3 layers. Okay. So you'll do 1 layer, let it dry. Okay, so right now it's only been 15 seconds, but it is already dry. Okay. I'll do my second layer. Okay. And second layer, I like to go in the opposite direction, okay, just so it's kind of doing a nice crisscross effect. With the mugs, or if you have something that's rounded, so let's say you're underglazing a vase, it might be a little bit trickier to go in the opposite direction, but if you can, I say go for it. Okay. Let it dry, and then you'll do your third coat. Okay. And I'll go back in that first direction. So, any questions on painting the underglaze? Yes. Good question. Do you have to paint the inside? No. The inside, you will have some options later on. So you can either do a bright color with a different underglaze, or you can do a high fire glaze, but we'll talk about the inside when we get to that point. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Good question. The bottom. Hey, with the bottom, I would leave it clean, just so things don't stick. The underglaze does not have glass in it, so there's nothing melty in it like some of our other glazes do. So if you get a little bit on the bottom, it's okay, but I would just leave it nice and clean, because later on it'll be good practice to keep the bottom pieces clean. Okay? But make sure that on the bottom of your mug you have your name. Okay? So if you haven't carved your name yet, this is really one of the last chances to do that. Okay? So, any other questions? All right. So once you have it painted, you will be able to start carving out your designs. All right, so for this, all sorts of different clay tools you can use. You can use your pin tool. In each box, I put 4 toothpicks. There's 2 of these larger scratch sticks. You have your ribbon tools, which are going to be, good for larger surfaces. You can use the loop tool as well if you have really big areas that you want to carve out. And then you can also use just a pencil, all right? So lots of options with this. So when we are carving, okay, you want to start off with the outside of your designs. Okay, so whatever shapes you have, you want to start off with that. Okay, so I did pass back your sketches. One mug is going to be a geometric design. Your second mug will be an organic design. Okay, so you got to decide which one you want to do. Okay. So for mine, I'm just going to start off with geometric. So I'll do kind of half and half. Okay. So I'm just using a toothpick and I'm just lightly pressing into the clay. Okay. All right, so you can see that where I carved in, you can see that brown of the clay. Okay. Depending on what tool you use, you can get those different line thicknesses. Okay, so here I'm using the scratch stick. Okay. You can see that there's definitely a difference in how thick my line is. Okay. If I were to go in with my ribbon tool, then I would get an even thicker line. Okay. So definitely consider your line thickness. Okay. So start off with your basic shapes that you have. If you have a pencil, that can also give you a different line thickness depending on how sharp or dull your pencil is. Okay? So right now I have a whole bunch of outlines. From here I have options. So I could take my ribbon tool, okay, and carve out the inside of my shape. Okay, so that I'm left with just that raw clay. Okay? And it's okay if you have a little bit of texture in there. It's just going to add to your design. Okay? Okay, so that I just use my ribbon tool. Another option you have is within your shapes. Okay? You could go in and carve out patterns and designs.
What about a circle?
Okay? So we could do circles. Okay? So I could go in over here using my ribbon tool, creating little circles within, okay, to kind of fill up that space. Okay. I could go from the
triangle jellyfish.
It does look like a triangle jellyfish, yeah. Okay, so I could go in and I could do, designs on the outside. Okay. I could carve away from my outline as well. Okay. So if you want just your kind of shapes or design to be that solid color, you can do that and have just a lot of carving throughout. Okay. So tons and tons of options with this. Okay, so I have this example that I made, so you can kind of see some of the different designs. So for geometric, okay, I have ones where I carved designs in, carved out, carved away, did a mix. Okay, you can add pattern to the background as well. Here I have some of my organic ones. Okay. So really depending on your design, you could do all sorts of stuff with it. Okay, so this one I did a lot of carving on the background, okay, so that my image was just that solid black.
That one, that's actually a design I actually like.
Oh, thank you.
The image.
So that's our Sgraffito. Okay, any questions?